Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hand of Fate 2. Let's continue. So,
Will you push on despite nature itself attempting to thwart
we
you?
are doing the High Priestess plot, or story mission, I guess we could call it. We need to get 5 more blessings. We struggled to get just 10 gold at the right time to move one of the card scenarios forward, but we managed to pull it off. Now we're ascending up the mountain. The sudden blizzard slows your progress through Mount Freedis. The bitter winds pierce your skin like shards of glass.
Witches I will tolerate. They have at least stepped into the streams of power that magicians call home.
As you ascend the snowy Mount Freedis, you happen upon a cottage with pungent smoke wafting from the chimney. These are some really big words. $5 words is what you might call them. A frail old lady sweeping snow off the path beckons you to come in. So we're running into an event just as we start the beginning of this level, and I wonder if that is always going to be the same event every time you play. Probably is. And then I suspect that there is a third group of cards, at least. And so we're just going to wander around looking for the Ascension card, which is probably going to be on the edges. It would be weird if it was in the middle, but even if it is in the middle, we want to do every single card. You would have to be on your second or third playthrough of this game, effectively, to want to go through these events and
Was
encounters.
I too bold? Too egotistic? Certainly. Yet I would never have wrestled the secrets of the elements from the Lords of Beyond were I not.
It's funny how you just sit here long enough and you'll just start talking. But yeah, I imagine, even if you were playing the game multiple times, since you can select what the event cards are to some extent, it still is probably going to be beneficial to run on to every single event that you can, unless your life is just really low or your food is really low. Maybe you'll starve to death if you have no food instantaneously. That's a possibility. We're also collecting Valor as a 4th card now, and I don't know what we're going to do with that. We come in search of the Great High Priestess to deliver an important message, says Malaclips. You better go bearing blessings if you want to get on the High Priestess' good side. I'm fixing a batch right now if you'd like a taste. If I've got it right this time, you can take it to her, she says, stirring the cauldron. Malaclips politely declines. I've been watching what I eat, but my companion here has an insatiable appetite, he says, nudging you forward. Seems like I keep being put in danger. So, I mean, there really is just no reason to not always pick the one on the left, because it is randomized. It's not like you can follow with your eyes. At least I'm not seeing any motions that makes it seem like you can follow with your eyes, where a certain one was. So we now have Second Wind. There was a possibility of failure of those cards. In combat, boost life to 75 when life drops below 25, then discard this card. Any number of blessings can be equipped at a time, as a transient blessings are discarded when certain conditions are met. So if we want 6 blessings, we can't let our life drop down now or we'll lose one. You take a sip of the aromatic potion and feel a warm, fuzzy feeling flowing through your body. Looks like my recipe is a success. I'm sure the High Priestess will appreciate this one. You thank the old lady and continue up Mount Freedis, paying no heed to the brewing blizzard.
In the cold, men become desperate. Women hold these mountains together, even through the worst.
So, that was just a damaged blizzard card, and I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps on a second playthrough you could replace some of these negative blizzard cards with something else, but the little label on the top right of the blizzard card may indicate that it is always going to be included as a possibility of the cards being dealt. It doesn't really feel like there are extra cards that aren't dealt, ever. It seems like everything ends up on the table. With little warning, a snowstorm sweeps in from the north. The snow whips against you like shards of glass and obscures your vision. You struggle to find cover. So we can have failure, huge failure. Maybe there is a shuffling here, and maybe I'll try and pay more attention to how it happens. You climb, the climb becomes unbearable. You seek shelter in a cave and desperately fight off the onset of frostbite. When the howling winds ease, you clear the snow from the cave entrance and discover dark clouds. The dark clouds have passed. So we failed on the blizzard before and ended up in a fight. Malkup forges for firewood, saying the log is dry enough we can set up camp here for the night. Which might be an achievement for setting up camp. But I don't really feel like I want to. We'll do it anyways. As though you were being stalked, a gentle northerner pilgrim emerges from the darkness. Mount Fridus doesn't ever bite. He says with a grin, I love her harsh kiss and bitter cold embrace. Another day's good climb. So, let's see if we can trade. Buy equipment. We don't have enough for that. Sell equipment. We don't want to sell that. Do we really need to buy food? Not really. See, cooking food, I guess, can be a little helpful, but it's not like cooking food is giving you more health than just eating food normally would. And I imagine the keyword restores there means you can only go up to 100. Not that you can go above that. So let's go to the next area. Another blizzard. Another injuries. Yeah. Okay, so I see success. So this should be a success card. Climb becomes unbearable. You seek shelter in the cave and desperately fight off the frostbite. We could camp again. Let's go ahead and just camp. Let's just camp every time. We're getting slightly different dialogue, but I kind of just don't care. Seems like we can camp at any choice, and while the dialogue may be different, the events seem to be the same.
A lesson in caution awaits us all. Nature, truly wild nature, will not tolerate fury in its domain, unless it is its own.
High up on the mountain, you see a silhouette of a man approaching through the heavy snow. He bellows through the roaring wind. Who dares trespass on my sacred grounds of our priestess? So we have what looks like might be a Jack of Frost Trapper, or T of Frost Trapper, and then 2 of Frost. Hidden raiders bring down the mountain with the dexterity of mountain goats. In that case, the stutter looks to me like what's happening here is it is saving the game or loading the game into video RAM in a single thread. So it's waiting for the video RAM to load up. At the same time, it's waiting for the animation to play. When it seems like the animation could have been loaded up and playing in the foreground, as all of the new sprites and models need to be loaded in for this 3D section. Effectively, I imagine it might be loading in a completely different game engine compared to what we normally are playing. And yeah, it's probably just bad optimization where all of that should be loaded in by default earlier and stay loaded into the video RAM, or perhaps more parallel. This is the kind of programming that I imagine pushes the need for video cards to have more and more video RAM in general, outside of people trying to get to 2K and 4K resolutions, which would take a lot of video RAM also. But yeah, it definitely seems like streaming loading. You can also see the axe is clipping through the knee of this trapper. On the frozen plains, prey are few and far between. The keen eyes of the trapper see all trappers still hunting. Traps that snare their targets use evade to avoid the traps or change direction rapidly to break free.
Who dares venture? Not less than the amazing Balaclips and assistant.
Alright. I'm trying to dodge, but I'm not sure if I'm hitting the right button. I don't think I am. Yeah. And here you can see this is as much as I can move the camera. So if he just moves out of the way. In the first Hand of Fate, the images and the environments in the background were slightly small. The arenas were slightly smaller, and they've made them bigger, and that's probably not that helpful or nice to do that. Guess we'll select Winter's Bane this time, or we could go with Cardinal Blade. Probably it's smarter to go with Cardinal Blade and just finish the requirement on that one.
A remnant of the Templars and their religious righteousness.
But yeah, it probably would stop some of the stuttering if there was just one generic arena that was loaded into RAM, and you just fought in that same generic arena over and over again, as it just being a round Coliseum-like environment, and then you could maybe swap out color palettes and change a little bit on the textures without changing the full 3D modeling of the environments. Although inherently, I think Hand of Fate probably just shouldn't have the action hack and slash elements at all. It is a weird gameplay mechanic that just feels out of place, particularly since there isn't a game that can come to the top of my mind that would be like Hand of Fate,
Do you wait for fear
but
of making
doesn't
the
have the
wrong
hack and
move?
slash action sections. You get into things like Darkest Dungeon that are closer to being card-based or turn-based, but even that feels slightly different. Perhaps because Darkest Dungeon is more Cthulhu-based and this is more fantasy-based or Tolkien-esque fantasy, elves and things like that. The clash of the steel rings out, echoing through the peaks. The mountain answers with a low, ominous rumble, as well as a white rush toward the melee, sweeping away everything in its path. So, are we going to survive the avalanche after the fight? Yes.
A win here sets the tone for your challenge.
Is there going to be more challenge to this? You seek shelter against the bluff, pressing close to the rock face as the avalanche roars overhead. When the trembling stops, you are miraculously unscathed. Your assailant's weapon juts from the snow. As you near, you realize it's clenched in his hand, his body buried to the wrist by the avalanche. Let's dig him out since we don't really need a weapon. You brave the cold and free the raider from the icy grave. He takes a moment to catch his breath and says, "You saved me, though we are enemies by blood. Take my blessing and leave me to my thoughts." So are we going to get a real blessing, or are we just getting 2 more fame? We got a full blessing, which should have been, I guess, a little bit more obvious that that's what we should have done. We should do nice things to get blessings. Long shot. Score an exact target value in a dice gambit to draw 3 equipment cards, then discard this card. Interesting. So this one card, if we do a dice gambit and get exactly the right amount, then we'll replace with 3 equipment cards, which wouldn't be blessing cards. So we kind of don't want that to happen.
I am torn between my loathing for gnomes and my despair that the world is becoming less strange and arcane as the Empire spreads.
Gnomes card. It just says gnomes, no number per se. You trespass on a gnomish ground, humans. A voice calls out as a dozen small creatures leap from the trees around you. Your penalty for this transgression is death. Make peace with your gods. So it seems like it's just going to be a fight. Do we have the new sword equipped? I guess we'll find out once we jump into it. Yeah, that's quite a lot of characters. And I would say the animation here is actually very nice looking in that it isn't just yet another generic average humanoid creature. It is still incredibly repetitive. They all have spears in the exact same hand, doing the exact same animation that are at least a little bit out of cycle, but not randomized enough in the animations, or not having enough animations to randomize. Fiercely territorial, trespass on gnomish lands and face consequences. Pesky, persistent, and impossible to hit. Gnomes cause snare, evade, to avoid, or struggle to break free. Gnomes can only be deterred with a finisher. Which, yeah. You have a bunch of them. So this isn't even so much a fight as it is just, let's see, we've got to knock them down and then we've got to kick them. Well, that is a twist. So finishers are left trigger, special abilities are right trigger. The battered gnomes pick themselves up from the battlefield and approach you cautiously. Alright, the penalty for transgression is no longer death. We'd like to parley. We seek arms to defend ourselves. The gnome declares loudly, hand over some of your equipment and we'll release you. We can even pay you something. I'll give you food for a helmet. One of the small folks exclaims, I'll share the secrets of this land for a ring. Another claims. Let's see. Give me a weapon I can wield it for my brother, and we've got gold. Gnomes all loudly shout their offers, trying to drown out each other. Okay. So we can give him the knight's sword. And trade that, and that's all we can really trade. You surrender the equipment to the gnome, satisfied they offer payment in return. We get 15 gold, 25 gold, 10 gold, that's pretty good. The toothless gnome looks perplexed. A mighty war machine to be sure, but however will we wield it? He turns to his brother, and together with all the other gnomes, they heave the weapon in the bushes and out of sight. You gain 2 fame. So that's probably a scenario I wouldn't want to do again, except for the fact that I didn't trade the right things, or maybe I shouldn't have traded at all to get that reward. Maybe we need to find something that is small in order to work for a gnome, or maybe it was a ring that we needed to trade.
The mountain is unforgiving. You would not be the first to die upon its peak.
Not quite ready to ascend, so let's do this last event.
A grand opportunity for you to take whatever pleases you and go about your day.
The Temple of Divine Providence provides blessings in exchange for a simple gold donation. Seems like we could probably do this and get at least 3 remaining blessings, and frankly we should just see how many blessings we can buy. Let's see. Revive a companion. Sure, we'll take that. Let's see. And we can only buy 1. Well, it would have been, I guess, a little too easy if we could have just bought a bunch of them, but I thought it was going to let me do that. Just spend my 80 gold on that.
Old witches. I have a fondness for them, but I would not trust them.
Further up the mountain, the blizzard becomes so intense that you can barely see a tiny cottage engulfed in the snow. The old lady beckons you in. I reckon I received word from my sisters, Hawk, and have been expecting you. I may not be as skilled as her, but this blessings potion I've whipped up is the best yet. Do you think it's good enough to take the High Priestess? She says, blowing the steam off the simmering bowl of the thick liquid. I really couldn't, says Malaclips, patting his belly. I wonder if maybe there's some twist here that Malaclips, as a secret magician, can't eat food, or because he's like cursed, or if he is just actively trying to avoid having any spells put on him. So I take back what I said before. I do think there is probably a way to follow the right cards, because of the way they kind of maintain movement and maintain an order as they stack on top of each other. So if I'm right, this should be a good one, but it wasn't. So I'm probably not right, or maybe I just screwed up. There's 2 ways you can either look at that, and you could say it is pure luck and you should just pick the first one to save time, if it is truly pure luck. But if there is some actual animation there that you can follow if your eyes are fast enough, I'm not really seeing it though. The problem is when you have that even 1 frame, 1 second of all the cards being stacked on top of each other, and then you see the cards separate. If all of the cards are exactly on top of each other, so the top card is obscuring view of all the cards beneath it, then you have no chance of knowing where the cards are unless you follow the top card. But that would inherently mean that the top card would have to be good. So at best, if you followed the top card and could figure that out, which you really can't, because you don't know which card is going to be the top card, that would just eliminate 1 negative possibility if it's a negative card, and show 1 positive possibility if it's a positive card. There are other games, like there are definitely other games that you'll see the cards shuffle, and if you actually can follow the cards being shuffled and just succeed. Of course, the follow the queen concept in the real world, when people are gambling on the streets, are rigged via sleight of hand, so you can't win, and even if you did win, you would just get jumped in the alleyway as soon as you try to leave with any winnings. You take a sip of the putrid potion and feel your stomach churn. I knew I shouldn't have substituted the cloud berries for bog berries, she says, comforting you. Choose the righteous path and you'll find blessings on your way, I'm sure. You step outside into the blistering cold and continue up to Mount Fredis. I'm adding "the" to a lot of these words. So that didn't give us a blessing, and weirdly we're starting in the middle here. These blizzards aren't really hurting me that much, but it is just the exact same dialogue when you run into a blizzard, and increasingly I think that's what we're going to see throughout this game as we get deeper and deeper into it, is a lot of repetition. Alright. So I think this is a success card. Nope, it was a huge failure card. So I'm definitely not doing good on this. The climb becomes unbearable. You seek shelter in a cave and desperately fight off the onslaught of frostbite. You're alerted to the sound of shuffling footsteps. So here we have quite a lot of people we're going to have to fight now because of the huge failure. But if you fight people due to their huge failure, then that tends to lead to you actually getting a reward. Berserkers fueled with rage and determined to destroy a berserker weapons are imbued with ice that slows their enemies' movements and attacks.
By sea and sun, fate and fame!
It does feel like you need to get closer in on the characters. And our companion is downed over there, so I don't know if I just use the blessing cards to revive the companion or not. Gives us 5 food for defeating that, but our health is actually pretty low. Let's see. We probably should make camp here. Right. Let's see if we can trade to buy food. We have enough where we could buy the shield. Yeah, let's go ahead and buy it anyways. It's a better shield than what we have. And then slightly cheaper to buy 3 food. And then we'll just buy 1 food. We'll go and cook food up to 83. Now what this does seem like though is we're still like 2 blessings short. So it almost feels like we're going to have yet another layer. It would be nice if they told me
it's hard to conceive
how
that
many
either of us were ever
floors
such.
or how many layers we're going to go through. Here's the lost boy. He's just a small child, you overhear. A deeper voice growls. We have to take him to the dungeon or else he'll run straight to whatever northern clan he spawned from and show them where our outpost is. That's a shifty looking kid. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, says Malaclips. So are we supposed to take pity and do the right thing, which is save the boy, or should we not trust him? Well, inherently the game is telling us not to trust Malaclips, and the narrator, who we probably shouldn't trust, is telling us not to trust Malaclips. But I think we should save the boy. Even though the double negative of not trusting the narrator telling me not to trust Malaclips would say I should trust Malaclips. Let's save the boy. Unsheathing your weapon, you demand they let the boy go. The Empire soldiers are unmoved by your threat. So now we have what looks like a page of phalanx, page of steel phalanx, and a musket of steel, M of steel. They definitely are just making up cards at this point, compared to like minor arcana and tarot. In fairness, you can't really do too much around the tarot and fortune telling in general in a video game. You can make references to it because it's exotic, and that's about it. You can't really make a game around it. Although, ironically, the tarot cards originally were designed to just be extra suits for card games. They had no fortune telling element to them at all originally. That was all added later. They straight up were just supposed to be
you make a poor apprentice.
more
Cultivate
suits for more
focus.
trumps for more kinds of card games. Which, noticeably, we have not really invented new suits for your standard 52 card deck since then. We're also supposed to be getting on the Northerner Priestess good side, so it makes sense to save the boy even here over the Empire. The Empire obviously is just going to be the bad guys throughout the entire story. Soldier, the expansion of the Empire requires constant conscription of new blood. Soldiers block all attacks, greatly reducing their damage. Use bash to open them up for damage. Which button is bash?
Once again, good intentions.
Let's see. That would be B. I see. That's one down. So a couple of these guys are not holding the same weapons. And that's interesting. He threw him into the river. I don't know if that was an actual animated intentional thing or if that just was a convenient coincidence. We get 5 max life, we get 19 health, and we have finished the Cardinal Blades requirement. As you check on the unconscious guards, you notice the boy looking at you warily as if sizing you up. So we now have a dice roll.
Dice are a constant reminder of death. The singular is die, as I'm sure you know, and they are often called bones for the material from which they were crafted. Here, however, they may also bring a touch of life.
Okay, so we won. He fiddles with a little dried plant hung around his neck nervously. Okay, I will tell you. There was an Empire ambush on our village and I ran with Mother. We got separated. He wiped some tears from his face angrily, but I'm not afraid. I am of Clan Catsfoot, and we are great pathfinders. I will find my way home. The boy tells you what he knows of the area. We straight up know what the cards are, although looking at a TV monitor from 10 feet away, and frankly, I probably need to just go ahead and turn off the extra lights I have in my room and sit in the dark to read this, because this is a fairly dark game. It isn't super easy to read. So we know now where the Blessed Summit is. It's in the lower right hand corner. We could avoid the blizzard at the top point, but we want to do the Westward Tavern, and we probably want to do the Avalanche, and we probably have to do the blizzard too, so we might as well just do it. But if the Blessed Summit is there, we've got to get 2 more blessings, and we're just not accomplishing that. The small northern boy refuses any and all help. You can only wish him luck from as a small form disappears into the forest. You gain 2 fame. And what's funny is those little pieces are disappearing to the left when I would have thought, and I'm pretty sure in the first game they went into the bowl on the right as rewards. Okay.
Ever since I've returned to this world, I've been disappointed. The filth, the shame, the horrors dwell in the minds of men, not in the monsters in the darkness.
Wentwood's only tavern, the Rusty Razor, is a safe harbor among the many dangers of the outer reaches of the Empire. Its barkeep sits atop his establishment with a look of resigned defeat. Upon your arrival, he jolts straight up, and a smile almost breaks out across his face. At last, someone from the guild is here. These Empire soldiers have almost ruined me. Before you can disagree, the owner swings open his saloon doors and pushes you inside. Inside, you discover a handful of Empire soldiers enjoying ale rather than doing their duty. The freshly invigorated barkeep hops onto a table and shouts above the noise, "You lazy drunken deserters are done. The Stewards Guild has sent an enforcer here, and now you're all going to have to get back to your posts. The town needs defending." So now we're going to fight a musket of steel and a phalanx of steel. One of the soldiers rises with a slight sway. We've got 3 days until our shift ends and we return to civilization, so we're not doing any fighting unless they threaten the supply of ale, right, lads? Watch us cheer ups and beer tankards smash together all around. So why don't you take your shiny eagle badge and shove off? Do we even have an eagle badge? Let's check our inventory. Can we even see what badge, as far as our appearance is? No. Let's see, we have a massive amount of money and not much to do with them, so barkeep turns you, what are you going to do? Threaten or offer a bribe? Let's just offer a bribe. You explain that you've been authorized to grant an act of heroism rewards to the soldiers you meet. Offer 10 gold, offer all my gold. Let's just offer all of our gold and see what happens here. Yeah, it feels like if the speed at which things get shuffled changes too. The Imperial soldiers gather their belongings, head out to man their posts. Some of them already planning how to spend their bonuses. You lose 59 gold.
Nicely done.
So, we probably won't need any gold going forward, but it might have been helpful to buy some food. Okay. Your climb becomes unbearable. You seek shelter in a cave. Let's see. Success in a blizzard does nothing for you. We have 3 food. We're going to use 2 food, leaving us with 1 food, so we should be about perfect. We're just going to be short at least 1 blessing, I think, which may mean that you just can't win on this scenario if you take the wrong cards. And so we may very well just have to start a different scenario, and since there are 3 open scenarios available to us, to find other blessing cards. And so they may very intentionally have ordered this in a way to make this impossible to win.
Your supplies are running low. Make your choices carefully.
But yeah, by the 3rd scenario, we're already running into a lot of repetitive cards. Let's see. Would there be any reason to switch out cards? Defend 30 attacks from an enemy with this shield. Well, I'm not going to do that completely in this scenario, but we should try. Probably what they're what the mistake here is that they're showing the cards loading in. If they just showed the background animation, it'd probably be easier to pull off.
Who dares venture? None less than the amazing Enlist and assistant.
Let's see, how many attacks can I really defend? There's like 1 or 2 more guys over here beating on my accomplice, but he's not really taking that much damage on easy mode. The game gets really, really easy on easy mode. It feels like there should be a medium difficulty in between. So I want to take the ring just to see what that does. Plus 10 max life when you have more blessings than curses. Or every 3rd step does not consume food, but then this shield does very little defense. We'll go with the ring.
Valuable for purely financial reasons, if nothing else.
Clash of Steel rings out, echoing through the peaks, creates an avalanche. Now we've got to roll to see how we do with the avalanche. We succeed. It does just feel like we've gotten luckier all of a sudden. I've gotten an achievement for win 5 dice gambits in a row. And then we need to dig this guy out. And then he'll give us a blessing. Optionally, retry any chance cards gambit. It's a permanent blessing, guardian angel. I would like that blessing always. So let's go ahead and camp. Seems like what's likely going to happen here is that we're going to end up fighting. There's no food to buy. We could sell equipment, but I wouldn't want to sell any equipment. So unless something else happens. We just aren't going to have the right amount of blessings, so we may straight up just lose. Let's see.
Now the confrontation. Are you ready to face the priestess of her people and drive the deal the Empire has requested? Or will you turn and flee?
The winds clear the dark clouds to reveal the spire of a ritual house protruding from the summit. You press on through thick snow to find wooden structure adorned with the spoils of war. So we're going to enter. As you enter the great hall, the towering arched doors swing open with a heavy creak. A giantess in velvet robes enters, accompanied by raiders. Malcolm bows low to the ground. My companion and I have been sent forth to discuss a truce between the Empire and the Northerners, my lady. So they send me a silver-tongued devil and his mercenaries, she smirks. I hope for your sake you have a decent offering. You kneel before the High Priestess. Only 5 blessings. What a pitiful effort. With a flick of her wrist, bolts of lightning strike you. And here we can see, for not bringing enough blessings, you have failed to win the gold token.
You still have a chance to defeat this mission, even if imperfectly.
So we don't get that gold token, but we have other rewards still available to us, so we still want to win. You don't want to just forfeit and restart. The giantess claps and the sound ringing in the silent, cold hall. Ha! The small thing survived it. Impressive. But if you wish to speak to me of a treaty, you must prove yourself against my champion. Her raiders charge towards you. So, it turns into a fight. Which, maybe it always would have been a fight. Or maybe we would have completely avoided the fight if we had gotten 6 blessings. Did we have any opportunity to get 6 blessings? I'd say probably not. So we've got to find something that would give us a blessing as a special card to add to the deck. It does seem like you just cannot get a perfect run the first time. Berserker champion, fierce, loyal, and relentless champion of the High Priestess. Berserker weapons are imbued with ice that slow enemies' movements and attacks. Yep. And the fact that it seems like you can't get a perfect victory on this run makes me suspect that there might be fewer missions than I think there should be. I think there should be somewhere around 13 of them. If we get down to only 8 of them, that might be fairly surprising. Or not that surprising.
Always end up enraging the locals.
Right. These trappers. That guy's down. So now we can possibly take our time and try to defend attacks. Our health isn't being that much of a danger. I think it's probably going to be a while before I get the shield to defend 30 times. I imagine we just won't get that many shields that have requirements on them. Even though you failed to bring me your offering, I'm impressed with how you wield your sword. Now hear my terms. The High Priestess draws herself up, a towering figure draped in fur and wrath. The North will never bend to the Empire. Blood for blood for blood. Those are my terms. Small one. Let your leaders hear it and quake. With that, you make a quick descent to relay the message back to General Brandstorm. So we get a kind of moon-shaped coin, which maybe that is a silver coin instead of a gold coin as a reward. But that may very well have the cards we need to get the gold coin. For besting the High Priestess champion, we get a Humble Hammer, a Berserker's Creed, and an Extinguisher as far as all equipment goes. We also get Winter Solstice, Burning Building, Temple Prayers. We may very well just need to take Temple Prayers the next time we play this scenario. But I don't know if I really want to play this scenario twice in a row either. We should just jump around, I would assume is the smarter move. We also get Cartographer. I wouldn't be surprised if Cartographer is very much like the Lost Child event, where it's just not a great card because all it's going to do is reveal the layout of other cards, when in almost every run you're going to try and do every single event regardless. Even in this mission where there were a lot of avalanches and a lot of blizzards that hurt you, that didn't really deter me from wanting to do every single layout. The funny thing here is there is a lot of artistry going into these cards and then really no celebration on the card. Like, noticeably, there isn't just like a collection menu where you can easily see all of the events. Maybe we unlock that in the future point, but yeah. Particularly if you're playing this on something like the Steam Deck where the screen is going to be closer to you and a little bit smaller, you would like these cards to be bigger and take up the full screen, and you'd like to be able to look at them and make them show off really nicely. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they straight up tried to print and sell these cards as an actual card game at some point, but I never heard about anything like that happening. For ascending Mount Freitas, your supplies have been added to. You get a gain 5 food, a warrior's axe, a soldier's sword, and the supplies of gaining 5 food at the start might be way more helpful than you would think compared to just equipping one more weapon that you wouldn't really need. And so here's our coin rewards for accomplishing some of the event cards. For convincing Merc to help Malaclypse, we have unlocked a companion card called the Underneath. It's making me press A for them to explode when really it should just explode automatically, since it just goes to the screen and then you should press A to reveal. Or you could potentially just have it all happen fairly at a decent pace. There's a lot of opportunity here to just stop pressing A and have the game pause in animation loops. For clearing out the Rusty Razor, we now have a friendly innkeeper, which I imagine that's a card that would just give us a decent bonus, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that decent of a bonus. Take aim and uncover what lurks in Iron Peak. I don't know what specifically unlocked these cards. Rana's Remarkable Fishing and Unrest in Iron Peak. These might be rewards we got just for defeating this level. And then that looks like a different logo, a little bronze coin. New challenge available on the challenge map, the map maker. So we have silver, not gold, on the High Priestess. And so the main story would have us pressing forward to just doing the Empress and then the Emperor. And in total, we have 7 that we see as far as missions, and then there's just a lot of gap between the chariot and the move icon in the lower right, which would make me assume that there's probably 6 more. I would not expect any more than 13 though. And then this adventure map maker is, I think, DLC, so I don't really want to do it at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if doing this wouldn't just introduce cards that would confuse what the experience would be for people who didn't buy the DLC. There's a decent chance that the DLC cards either make it way more difficult or way easier. Still need to complete 5 challenges to unlock the Enlist mode, and 4 challenges to unlock the Servant. And it doesn't really feel like there's any reason why we'd ever go back and do the Fool and the Magician ever again. But yeah, you would expect that it would be very easy to just go into the pause menu here and have a card collection to highlight the cards and the artistry being done there. It also wouldn't be a terrible thought to have a lore collection in the menu where you can replay lines of dialogue that the narrator has already spoken, and perhaps even give some guidance around what lines of dialogue you have yet to unlock around the narrator, the dealer character. But it does kind of feel like, in my vague memories, that the narrator is not really narrating as much now as he did in the first game. And it definitely feels like in the first game, it was just one long narrative experience. You started the game and then you would just play all the way to the end. If you failed, it would just restart you to the beginning of a checkpoint. There was no map, and there was no possibility of jumping around to different challenges. This is better in the sequel, but it still doesn't feel like it's changed that much. They did release Hand of Fate 2, I feel like, a little too early compared to the release of Hand of Fate 1, and had they taken a little bit more time, they could have done something a little bit more evolutionary instead of just incrementally better. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and keep on watching. Thanks.